Good evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Scathing words from the Supreme Court today as it pulled up Gujarat, Haryana and Bihar for what it called their ostrich-like attitude on the drought. In an important ruling today, the court has called for completely new rules regarding drought relief. The question is, have states been ignoring the severity of the drought crisis?
Criticizing Bihar, Haryana and Gujarat for an ostrich-like attitude over drought, the Supreme Court says their sound of silence furthered the distress. The judgment today has called for a complete rewrite of drought relief rules. The court said define a time limit to declare drought, standardize the process and set up a fund and relief force specifically for drought. But the centre has reservations on setting up a new fund.
The central government cannot wash its hands off the state's refusal to declare drought.
Now we have already passed the appropriation bill. From where do I get this extra money outside the appropriation bill to comply with this direction of the Supreme Court?
So far, the centre has said it can only step in after the states ask. But the court made it clear that the buck stops with the centre. Quoting freedom fighter Lokmanya Tilak, the judgment says the problem is not a lack of resources or capability, but a lack of will. Something that could have made a huge impact on the lives of more than 1/4 of the country's population that's reeling under the impact of drought today. In New Delhi with Arunachalam Vaidyanathan, Ketki Angre for NDTV.
Well, joining us on the program tonight is the petitioner in this case, Yogendra Yadav of Swaraj Abhiyan, Pawan Verma, Rajya Sabha MP and member of the JDU, Shaina NC, spokesperson of the BJP, joins us tonight, and as well as Himanshu Thakkar, who is a well-known activist who has been working in this field for several years now. Yogendra Yadav, this is a very important ruling and something that you had moved the Supreme Court for, and very strong words by the court today saying that these states like Haryana, Bihar and Gujarat are in denial mode, that they are ostrich-like, and that the problem is not a lack of resources but a lack of will.
Very strong words indeed. From Swaraj Abhiyan's side, we had said that we need to ask these states on what basis did they take this decision of not declaring a drought. And throughout the 4 months of this petition, the states kept coming with one excuse after another. Did not share full data. In fact, Supreme Court has had to say they have not even shared full information with the Supreme Court. This is what they said about Bihar, also about Haryana. And there doesn't seem to be a willingness. That's the point that Supreme Court has made. But I should also mention, you see, the long-term significance, as you rightly said, is not merely about the strictures they have passed against these 2 or 3 states. It is in the Supreme Court's laying down a new framework, as it were. The court is saying, please stop these archaic practices like Anavari and such like. Please go for modern practices. Please start treating your citizens as citizens, not as colonial subjects. Start recognizing their entitlements, and please start taking your own documents seriously. So from legal point of view, more important than the strictures is the fact that it lays down a new conceptual, legal and methodological ground for a new way of thinking and acting about drought, and that's why I think it's a landmark judgment. I should also mention in passing that it's only part 1 of the judgment. The court has not yet pronounced any judgment on the tangible prayers that we had made about food, about employment, about water, about cattle feed, etc. And we are expecting that part of the judgment to come tomorrow or the day after.
You made an important point about the new sort of framework that the Supreme Court is trying to put in place as far as drought relief is concerned, and we'll talk about that in more detail. But Pawan Verma, how do you respond to the criticism that the court has laid out today? Bihar is among the states that have been singled out.
With due respect to what the Supreme Court said and with appreciation for the campaign that Swaraj Abhiyan is running, I want to put on record that there is no reason for Bihar to be reticent in declaring a drought if a drought is actually something that has happened on the ground. In fact, in 2015, Mr. Nitish Kumar said that if the rains are delayed by 10 more days, we will have to declare the state to be drought hit. And even today, while there are areas where there is indeed shortage of water, tankers etc. are being sent to provide immediate relief, but the moment that situation, or if the rains are delayed because the rains are around the corner now in that part of the country, If the rains are delayed, we will declare it drought hit. In fact, what our grouse is, that what the centre could have done for agriculture has not been done, and if the centre is, if you judge the centre by its any yardstick, there is less allocation in this budget for agriculture. Fertilizer subsidies have been slashed, Manrega payments have been reduced or delayed, input costs have gone up, the amount allocated to irrigation is 1/3 of what has been allocated to the bullet
But then you're
train.
passing the buck to
These
the
are
centre.
the priorities, and states are suffering for it.
Much of
No,
that may be
because
true, but
as
are
far
you
as Bihar is
passing the buck
concerned,
to the
Nidhi,
centre?
Can I say
No,
something?
as far as Bihar is concerned, Nidhi, I just want to make the one last point before Yogendra comes in. Bihar was one of the first states to prepare an agricultural roadmap. And in fact, agricultural growth in Bihar, if you compare it on a comparative basis, has been one of its significant achievements. I am not saying that drought is something that Bihar is immune to. It can happen to any state, and we will be the first to declare it if as per the current parameters, it requires to be. There's nothing to hide in this. Rainfall is not a matter of prestige.
Okay, Yogendra Yadav wanted to come in on that. Yogendra Yadav, does it sound like there's passing the buck going on here, or does Pavan Verma make an important point about the centre's role in this?
I think my friend Pavan Verma is probably missing the point. The point is not whether Bihar has done well on agriculture or not. The real question is, how have they responded to drought situation in some parts of the state? The court carefully says it's not that the entire state has to be drought prone. Some districts and some tehsils are, and the evidence before the court clearly indicated that when Bihar declared drought in 2013 and the situation in 2015 was comparable in so many districts, the court says, why don't you do it? I would request Pavanji to read the court strictures against Bihar carefully. It's very carefully worded judgment, and Bihar doesn't show up in very good light, unfortunately.
Well, Shaina, the same, is the same kind of the strictures and we see the words of the Supreme Court today apply to other BJP ruled states like Haryana and Gujarat, which have stood out along with Bihar today in the court order. How do you look at it?
First, I think what Judge Madan and Judge Ramana said were very serious words, because it almost suggested that there is no political will and that we shouldn't pass the buck. But I want to give you a small example, Nidhi, of Maharashtra, for example. We're going through the worst drought probably historically. 2 years back, we started the Jalyuk Shivar, where we've constructed 1,20,000 trenches. Irrespective of whether there is rain or whether there are floods or hailstorm, all the water that is received in this rainfall will be saved, consumed and judiciously used in the days to come. Now, Pavanji talked about the centre's role. I want to say that when the centre was offering Uttar Pradesh water, Akhilesh Yadav said no. When he met with the Prime Minister, when the Chief Ministers of varied states were interacting with the Honorable Prime Minister, he said that I want X amount of money. Now, this cannot be some kind of a bargaining platform if you have a natural calamity. Think of systems. We are fed up of giving our farmers freebies, subsidies, SOP. Somebody is giving rice at 2 rupees and wheat at 3 rupees. Somebody is talking about 5 lakh solar pumps. Somebody is talking about, technology to its best. But what we should really be focusing on is the Israel model of 1 drop per crop, which our Prime Minister has talked about repeatedly. And I think that onus does lie on the states and of course coordination with the centre. The centre is not putting its hands up, but to understand that in the days to come, if we don't use technology to the best of our advantage, considering the erratic global warming patterns where you have hailstorm and flood
but Shaina,
and
the
drought,
point is the
all
court, as you yourself
there
said,
is a
the court has talked about a lack of political will in very strong words. And let me get Himanshu Thakkar in here, because you know Maharashtra particularly well, what she was talking about the crisis there. How do you look at what the court has said today, and in terms of the impact that this could have? They've said what they've said, but you've also had the finance minister saying in Parliament earlier this evening, and I'll quote to you, that the Supreme Court has said that apart from the NDRF, there should be a new fund created. Where do I get the money from?
See, I think the first thing that strikes about the Supreme Court order is that there is a failure of governance both on the part of the center and the state, and one hopes that instead of sitting on prestige, the states and the central government take it in right spirit and put their house in order and start governing, and not like one of the union minister has said, ask the judges to go and fight elections. One of the in the context of IPL order, the union minister has said that judges should go and fight election if they want to govern. So that should not be the attitude. Secondly, as far as the track record of the state and central government is concerned, this is the worst hydrological and agrarian crisis that the India is facing in post-independence India in terms of the coverage and intensity, and the low that the water level has reached. And neither the state or the central government are really realizing even today the enormity of the situation. Thirdly,
when do you think they should have actually woken up to this crisis that we're looking at right now in the summer?
Very
like
true.
How long ago should they have woken up?
Exactly. At the end of the September, when the monsoon ends, we knew what is the rainfall deficit. We knew what is going to be the reservoir level, what was the reservoir level. We knew what is the groundwater situation. We knew there will be no more rainfall, at least regular rainfall till next monsoon, which is 9 months from then. And we knew what is going to be requirement of water in those 9 months in those districts and blocks. So immediately the center and the state should have acted, taken, assessed what is the water availability in each district and in those districts and blocks, and deployed that water availability to the priority needs. And we had actually written to the Maharashtra Chief Minister at that stage, in fact even earlier on 18th August itself, that stopped some of those things. For example, Maharashtra diverts 3 billion cubic meters of water from Krishna and Bhima basin to Konkan, and it continues this drought even today.
So you're saying you had woken up to it in August. Pawan Verma, isn't that a reasonable argument that is being made? Would you concede that Bihar should have woken up to this crisis earlier? I think that is something that should be conceded.
Nidhi, I want to make one point. First of all, agriculture is monitored on a very rigorous basis. In particular, because in the absence of industrial investment, agriculture is the mainstay of the vast number of people in Bihar.
It's the Union Agriculture Ministry's report which shows all this.
There's been a mini agricultural revolution in the past, but for 2 years we have had a drought situation. It's being monitored very carefully. Relief is being provided. At the same time, I do want to ask my friend Yogendra that in their petition, have they also referred to what the center has been doing for agriculture in the last 2 years? And this is something which is important. One, apart from the things I had mentioned to you earlier, I had raised in Parliament the fact that this government should have considered, for instance, a waiver of loans by farmers. I had mentioned that one particular house, the Adani Group, owes more to PSU banks than what the entire farming community owes in terms of debt. There are many steps that can be taken, and in fact we found a certain insensitivity to agriculture in both the last 2 budgets. However, the intention of the Supreme Court is well taken, and if there are any new parameters on which they would like the state to declare drought, the state will take them into account.
Yogendra Yadav, it's interesting because you'd written a piece on this issue, before the court judgment came out, and you talked about the famine code and you talked about the colonial mindset in this country that continues to inform the administrative approach to drought even after independence. If you could just explain that very simply about why it is a colonial mindset, and just break it down for us. Why are states so reluctant to declare a drought?
The colonial mindset was very simple. There are droughts in this country, and let's not allow those droughts to turn into famine. Let us not allow it to lead to death of human beings. So colonial mindset was approaching not drought but only famine, and ensuring that not too many people die and we don't have to spend too much money. This is in a nutshell the colonial attitude. The shift that needs to take place, and the reason why I think today's judgment is a landmark judgment, because it marks a shift from being considered subjects to that being citizens who have rights, who have entitlements, from that mentality which provided just succor and relief for a short time, to a mentality which looks at drought proofing of the country, long-term solutions, long-term mitigation.
What was the most
From
absurd
the
argument
whims
that you
and
heard
personal
from?
fancies
Sorry,
of the collector
sorry to interrupt. What was
to
the most
the
absurd
long-term
argument that you heard
legislative
from, say,
procedures?
Gujarat or even Bihar to the court, while coming up with excuses on why they were not declaring drought?
I noticed very carefully that our friend Shaina, when asked questions about Gujarat, she spoke about Maharashtra, she spoke about Uttar Pradesh, but not about Gujarat, and she was very clever not to do so. Because Gujarat actually gave one argument after another, which made no sense. Gujarat, for example, claimed that 125 mm rain is enough. 125 mm incidentally is 5 inches of rain through the year. We said this hasn't happened in the last 100 years. Gujarat said that we have this wonderful system of Anawari, which we will take 6 months. The court said, if Maharashtra can do Anawari in October, why does it take Gujarat up to April to come to this decision? Gujarat said that Gujarat actually also said that they have this wonderful irrigation potential. The court said,
it already has.
That's potential,
No,
but what have you achieved now? So this was sorry, all these documents were produced before the court, they were examined, and finally issues of moisture and exact scientific data which was available was produced. So actually, and then finally Gujarat government said, oh, we have discovered in the month of April that yes, 500 villages actually are drought affected, and our Anawari figures have come. And after 3-4 days they said, oh, by the way, another 400 are affected. The court asked, is it because this petition is going on? So there were a series of strictures about that.
Shaina, do explain.
I really don't want this discussion to be focused only on these states.